I was 16 when my parents sent me to spend the summer with my uncle in a remote European village. The air there smelled of pine, and the surrounding forest seemed endless. My uncle, a quiet man, warned me never to wander into the woods at dusk, but I was curious. One evening, I saw a faint light deep in the trees. It flickered like a lantern. My curiosity got the better of me, and I followed it. The deeper I went, the stranger the forest became. Trees twisted unnaturally, the air grew colder, and an eerie silence surrounded me. The light led me to a small, decrepit house. Its windows were shattered, and the door hung off its hinges. Inside, I saw a room filled with strange items, dolls without faces, mirrors covered in black cloth, and a journal lying open on the table. As I approached the journal, I noticed a name scrawled on the cover: Marie. The entries spoke of a woman who had lived in the village decades ago. She was cast out for reasons that weren't clear, but she seemed obsessed with bringing others into her isolation. Suddenly, I heard footsteps behind me. I turned, but no one was there. Then, the faint sound of a woman's laughter echoed through the house. The light from the lantern began to move again, this time retreating deeper into the woods. Panicking, I ran back to the village. When I told my uncle, his face turned pale. He said Marie was a real person who had disappeared years ago, but villagers claimed her spirit lured people into the forest, never to return. I didn't sleep that night, and I never followed strange lights again. It was supposed to be a quiet weekend getaway. My friends and I rented a cabin in the woods, miles away from the nearest town. The owner warned us about a reclusive neighbor who lived nearby, someone who didn't take kindly to strangers. We laughed it off, thinking it was just a tale to spook city kids like us. The first night was uneventful, but the second night, things took a turn. Around midnight, we heard knocking at the cabin door, slow, deliberate knocks. We froze, exchanging nervous glances. Probably just the wind, one of us joked, but we knew better. Peeking through the window, I saw a man standing in the shadows. He was tall, with a wide-brimmed hat that obscured his face. When I asked who he was, he didn't answer. He just stood there, motionless. By morning, we found strange markings on the cabin's walls, symbols etched into the wood. They weren't there before, and none of us knew what they meant. We decided to leave, but as we packed, one of us noticed a small, carved wooden figure left on the porch. It resembled the man we saw. Driving away, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched. Later, we learned that the neighbor was once accused of tormenting visitors to drive them away, but no one had seen him in years. We don't know if it was him that night or something else, but I'll never forget the feeling of those eyes watching us from the woods. I moved to a small English village after a tough few years. The countryside seemed like the perfect escape, quiet, serene, and far from city chaos. There was a meadow near my cottage, a beautiful place to walk in the mornings. Locals avoided it, but they never explained why. One foggy morning, I saw her, a girl in a white dress standing in the tall grass, her back turned to me. She seemed out of place, too pristine, too still. "Are you all right?" I called out, but she didn't move. The next morning, I saw her again, in the same spot, facing the same direction. This time, I walked closer, but as I approached, she seemed to disappear into the fog. I felt an overwhelming sense of dread, as if something was pulling me back toward the cottage. Over the next few days, strange things began happening. I'd wake up to find the windows open, even though I'd locked them. My things were moved around, and I started hearing whispers at night. It was always the same voice, soft, almost childlike. A neighbor finally told me about the meadow's history. Decades ago, a young girl had vanished there. Her family searched for weeks, but she was never found. Some believed she'd been taken by someone passing through, while others thought she had simply wandered too far. I left the village soon after. To this day, I don't know if what I saw was her or something darker, but I'll never forget the way her presence felt, like an emptiness that could swallow you whole.